was a bit of a mix. Some of them were very genuinely terrible people and difficult to be around, and I couldn't wait to get away from those jobs.
It's just wild to me that I'm now starting to be in a headspace of like, yeah, eat the rich. And we pull up what subfloor is there, and I'm looking at the main drain, and there is like literally toilet paper caked on top of the drain because it's humbling, right? I am blessed to have a wonderful house. I don't know, man. I have a lot of introspective thoughts. I think way too much. And yesterday,
Introspective or intrusive?
yes, these are not mutually exclusive. But like we were driving yesterday. So I have a friend called me up this last weekend and was like, hey, my sister had an emergency flood. Like, I don't know what to do. He lives on the other side of the country. I was like, all right, man, I'll get it figured out. Contacted a GC friend of mine, and basically he's doing the job for peanuts, and I was over there working for free, right? So yesterday we're finally wrapping up this project. We basically did like a 10-day job in 3.5 days. And we were returning the parts to Walmart, Home Depot, and it's in a terrible neighborhood, right? Crackheads everywhere. And there was this guy on his scooter, right? And he's at a bus stop, and he's got like this big fake chain on, right? Hat like backwards and dressed just in old clothes, right? And he's like talking like real animated. And I was like, does that dude even realize how gross he is? And then I was like, I wouldn't talk to those people that he's talking to at the bus stop. And I was like, well, but it makes sense. He's settled in his class, right? He's on drugs, they're on drugs. The way that they were both moving around, it's obvious they're on methamphetamine, right? And I was like, oh man, what a disgusting life to live. And then I started thinking about it, and I was like, but then there's also these like elitist, rich, gross people who do nasty things with people that are too young for it. You know what I'm saying? Epstein.
Mm-hmm.
And those people have settled into their class, right? And I was just thinking about like the mediocrity of my life. And I was like, I'm an ethical person, and I don't do either one of those things. Maybe this mediocrity is kind of the way to be.
Maybe it ain't so bad.
Right.
To just be me.
Right.
Not be a disgusting animal on either end of the spectrum.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Addicted to drugs or addicted to doing
Terrible
taboo,
things,
disgusting things. People. Stealing the innocence of children.
Well,
like,
beyond taboo.
You know what? I'll take lower middle class. I'll take middle class and be completely fine with it and leave a legacy that hopefully somebody gets something from. That is exactly what this podcast is all about, is building content that people can find that's going to help them, right? And not teaching people to not do things by being a bad example, which is largely how I grew up, right? Watching the gross things and going, boy, I never want to inflict that on anyone. I'm not going to do that, right? So that dude at the bus stop, prime example that you can look over and be like, and kids, that's why you don't do drugs. And then conversely, that insanely wealthy person that's completely disconnected. And I have so many stories of those people as well that you can look at and go, and kids, that's why you don't become insanely rich and disconnected from society, because you turn into that.
When I was traveling for work, I met obviously worked for a lot of very, very successful people. And it was a bit of a mix. Some of them were very genuinely terrible people and difficult to be around, and I couldn't wait to get away from those jobs. And then there were others that were not that. They were very kind people. Now, I, of course, don't know who they are in their day-to-day personal life, my experience of them was very much different in that they were highly successful, could have anything they want at any point in the day, whenever, wherever they were in the world, and they were still genuinely kind to the people that were around them. I don't think being an abundance of wealth is exclusively makes people disgusting.
And that wasn't what I was saying. I said disconnected from reality.
Sure. Being
Because
ultra wealthy doesn't necessarily make you disconnect from reality, though.
We had Eric on the podcast, and some of the kindest people in the world, right? Again, not mutually exclusive, because being a meth addict doesn't mean that you're poor either.
Also very true.
It can lead to that. Being poor doesn't necessarily lead to meth addiction. Meth addiction will likely lead to you being poor. Being wealthy doesn't lead to you being the stealer of innocent children. However, Epstein made a whole portfolio of finances based upon exploiting that kind of stuff.
Yep.
You know, because I don't want to get back into the negative headspace, but that's what I was attempting to say earlier. Is I went from like being in a space where I believed that like make the most money that you can, right? Being wealthy means this. And then I also had a negative experience of wealthy people growing up because of the ultra rich side of my family. We're always horrible people to us, right? But yet I also am a firm believer in capitalism. And so when I would see people have these anti-capitalist mindsets, it always grossed me out. But it's funny now, and getting back to that kind of mindset where I was saying how wild it is that things have shifted so blatantly. Multimillionaires are not that rare anymore.
No, they're not.
They're kind of becoming the new middle class, right? But we look at multimillionaires as being just the insanely unreachable if you're in lower middle class, right? But it's not that unreachable anymore. It's never been easier to become a multimillionaire, right?
Sure. It's true at every passing day.
So when I refer to the rich, I'm not talking about millionaires or multimillionaires. I'm talking about the people that have hundreds of millions or billions of dollars, right? And so it's just wild to me that I'm now starting to be in a headspace of like, yeah, eat the rich.
I mean, I would say some of my past clients were in the space of hundreds of millions of dollars.
Right.
Again, some absolute trash, some genuinely kind. I mean, I think there's not enough time to get into and really unpack Eat the Rich, because that's a very fun topic. That there's a lot there.
Right.
Yeah. Another time for that one.
So I had made mention a little bit earlier about that situation where I was helping a friend out, and I think he was pretty blown away at my willingness to do this. And he's always been a super good person to me. But a friend of mine, Jim, reached out and he said that his sister had a big flood at her place and that they got the flood fixed, but they had no toilet and they needed to go set a toilet. And my immediate reaction was, if it was anybody except Jim, I would tell them not a chance in hell. Because I hate doing toilets. It's disgusting. I don't like hanging around poop holes, right? And I was like, all right, but it's for Jim. I'll bring gloves, etc. If the audience doesn't know, I'm massively a germaphobe. I wash my hands all the time. So I hate doing things in the bathroom. Work in the bathroom. So I end up going over there and the whole place is destroyed. There's like missing subfloor, and we pull up what subfloor is there, and I'm looking at the main drain, and there is like literally toilet paper caked on top of on the drain, and there's no subfloor, there's no tub, there's no shower, there's no vanity. They were using buckets to go to the restroom. And it's this lady who's probably in her 50s, and then her daughter who's 19 years old. And I'm like, you can't live like this, right? And so we were kind of discussing things, and basically we were like, all right, we can shoestring this and put it together for you. However, this is our cost, and it's well below what she's been quoted and well below what normally my buddy would quote to do this job. I went and did all the work for free. And so, I've got 30 something hours into this job myself, and we just got it buttoned up last night. We were literally in a 55 plus park running a chop saw at like 8:45 at night. Luckily, all the hearing aids were turned down. However, we got the last little bits buttoned up, and there's just small little things that need to be done at this point. Tile around the tub, etc. Anyway, I'm exhausted. I have cuts all over my hands. My back is killing me. I've just, I almost didn't want a podcast today just because of my headspace has not been great. I'm tired. I want a week off, right? And that being said, I didn't get it because I had to help a friend out. And I'm not saying this to toot my own horn. I am saying this because I think that it's important to give back to people. And I think that it's important to give back to your friends as well. And that man has been there for me when I was in a desperate situation. And when nobody else was, or nobody else was capable or able to, he was there for me and never asked for anything in return. And he was calling just to see like, hey, can you run over there and see how bad it is? And it was an hour drive. Yes, I'll do that. And I got in there, realized how desperate the situation was, and was like, all right, looks like I know what I'm doing for the rest of the week. But I think that it's important for men to do things like that, to be there for their brothers. And there's a sense of philanthropy that you get from doing something like that. I think it's important. I kind of wanted to talk on that for a minute and just kind of discuss how important I think it is, because it's humbling, right? I am blessed to have a wonderful house with multiple bathrooms that work. If I want to take a bath, I can take a bath. If I want to take a shower, I can take a shower. If I want to do it at 3 a.m, I can do that. And here is this, mother and daughter that don't have a place to do that. And, I felt bad for them. I'm sure you've probably heard people talking about peptides. It piqued your interest, you looked into it, but you don't know what source to trust. A lot of this stuff is coming out of China. If you're looking for a good quality peptide that's made in the United States, go to helixpure.com.